call.
Whoa. They lined up three backs.
It looked like,
Here we go for the win.
Man, you couldn't write a crazier script. I mean, that's
That is unbelievable.
Out of all games of Wild Card Saturday, I'd have to say that the one that I was looking forward to the most was the Jacksonville Jaguars showdown versus the Los Angeles Chargers, partially because I felt like it would be the most competitive game of the day. And on top of that, we would get to see the first playoff victory of either Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence. And I don't think we ever expected this much drama to come from it. I don't think we expected the ending that we got from this. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop, like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, break! A lot of you guys have been hitting me up in the DMs telling me how much money you've been making on Prize Picks. A huge shout out to my subscriber Spencer Sims, who's made $7,000 off of his picks over the past 2 weeks. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I play Prize Picks religiously and I post my picks to my story each and every day. If you want to try out Prize Picks right now, when you use my promo code Mikerophone, you'll get up to a $100 deposit match on your first deposit. And if you get any big hits on Prize Picks, make sure you DM them to me on Instagram so I could feature you in future promos. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? On week 18 of the NFL season, the Los Angeles Chargers faced off against the Denver Broncos in one of the most meaningless games in NFL history. As a matter of fact, the Chargers didn't need to win this game at all if they wanted to help their playoff seeding. They had the liberty to rest their starters, which is what most other teams in this situation did. The New York Giants had the opportunity to spoil the Philadelphia Eagles' top seed, but they elected to rest their starters so they can ensure that all of their players stay healthy in time for their important wild card playoff game. Whereas Brandon Staley felt like it'd be a good idea to make sure all of their players play just so they don't get rusty. And as a result, well, one of the most important players on the Los Angeles Chargers offense, Mike Williams, ended up suffering a back contusion in the most meaningless game of the entire regular season. The comical part about this is Mike Williams was going to be out of action for the next 2 to 3 weeks, meaning that even if the Chargers beat Jacksonville, Justin Herbert would be without one of his top weapons until at the very minimum AFC Championship game. The best part of this was Brandon Staley would lose that meaningless game to the Denver Broncos, and Brandon Staley gave a beautiful excuse as to why he did it. He didn't even hold himself accountable. His excuse for his gross mismanagement of the game last week was, well, there's only 48 guys that you can choose from, and these aren't easy decisions. Hindsight is perfect for everybody on the outside, but these games are not easy to manage. They're not, because you don't have that many players. We did it to the best of our ability. I had no idea that the New York Giants had more players than the Los Angeles Chargers did. I don't know what kind of voodoo magic that the New York Giants were able to do in order to rest their starters as opposed to the Los Angeles Chargers. Bear in mind, this is a team that suffered from many injuries this past season, so you would think that they'd be a little bit more sensitive to this situation and they'd be more careful, but no. And on top of that, not only did they mismanage the situation, but Brandon Staley didn't even hold himself accountable. The most bizarre part is Brandon Staley would go as far as to say that rest was more important than reps during this past week of practice. There's been no consistency at all, and Brandon Staley didn't hold himself accountable for his horrific mistake. As a result, Brandon Staley had to go into this game versus the Jacksonville Jaguars undermanned. Originally, that didn't seem like much of a problem. As a matter of fact, Trevor Lawrence came out and did his best Jamarcus Russell impression in the first quarter. Asante Samuel Jr. was out there looking like Asante Samuel. He had 3 interceptions on Trevor Lawrence. The Los Angeles Chargers got out to a huge lead, and it seemed like all was going to be okay. That was until the second half of play would begin. Now, before we get to this incredible collapse where Doug Peterson Peterson, another head coach that is known for his gutsy play calling and how overly aggressive he could be, clearly outcoaches Brandon Staley. We need to set the stage for this season because you have to bear in mind that the Los Angeles Chargers didn't come into this season hoping to get into the wild card. I mean, that's what the Jacksonville Jaguars were hoping to get into. Bear in mind, the Jaguars got the #1 overall pick in this past year's NFL draft. They were still recovering from a horrific Urban Meyer era. They were just focused on trying to save Trevor Lawrence from becoming a gigantic draft bust, which I never really had any doubts from, but they needed the right head coach to pair with Trevor Lawrence to make sure that his development was underway. And the fact that they were able to make it into the wild card was a huge bonus. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Chargers were in a completely different situation. They clearly found their quarterback of the future, their franchise cornerstone in Justin Herbert. They wanted to make sure that he had everything he needed offensively, and that he does. Mike Williams is a phenomenal red zone threat and one of the most imposing wide receivers in the NFL. Keenan Allen is without a doubt a top 3 route runner in the entire NFL. Multiple wide receivers will attest to that. They spent multiple draft picks on the offensive line to protect Justin Herbert, and they really went the extra mile this past offseason. They signed the best cornerback in all of free agency in J.C. Jackson. They also acquired Sebastian Joseph Day, and they made a huge trade for all-pro defensive end Khalil Mack to pair him with Joey Bosa. They extended Derwin James. This is a team that had each and every single one of its needs taken care of. The only thing that was stopping the Los Angeles Chargers was the injury bug. And honestly, with the Los Angeles Chargers having that history of them dealing with injury issues all season long, including to their own quarterback who suffered from a very brutal rib injury in the earlier part of the season, you would think Brandon Staley would know better than to play his players an additional game where they could potentially get injured. Which brings us to where we are tonight. The Los Angeles Chargers opened up the game with a dominant 27-0 lead. There were memes about Trevor Lawrence throwing passes to Asante Samuel. There were people even saying that Brandon Staley will have the opportunity to rest his starters in the second half. It seemed like this game was the Los Angeles Chargers to win. It was a situation where I felt like the Chargers finally arrived. The perfect combination of talent and perfect management of a game were coming together harmoniously. There was no way, shape, or form that I thought at any point at all whatsoever that despite throwing 4 interceptions tonight, Trevor Lawrence would be able to win this game with the Jacksonville Jaguars. It would take a catastrophic collapse for this team to lose. As a matter of fact, in the beginning of the fourth quarter, we even got a graphic saying that the Jacksonville Jaguars had a 12% chance to win. I looked at my girlfriend that was sitting next to me and I even told her, usually when they show that graphic, it means that the team with the 88% chance to win is about to lose. I was right. The Jacksonville Jaguars would make a heroic comeback with excellent play calling and calculated risks that panned out, such as Doug Peterson deciding to go for a 2-point conversion, cut the Los Angeles Chargers lead to 2 as opposed to making it a 3-point game. That way, if the Jags get the ball back, then all they needed was a field goal to win the game, which they were able to kick. It's almost as if Doug Peterson is what Brandon Staley wanted to be, a man that makes aggressive yet brilliant decisions that ends up panning out, not a man that decides to make aggressive decisions just for the sake of making aggressive decisions. And more often than not, it tends to blow up in his face. This isn't the first time I made a video on Brandon Staley being way too aggressive. He decided to play Justin Herbert despite Justin Herbert being hurt earlier this season, if you guys recall. At the end of the day, I want to give the Jacksonville Jaguars their flowers. I am very happy to see Trevor Lawrence is surrounded by a good coaching staff this year, a team that is being built around him to help him succeed, and that he was confident enough to will the Jacksonville Jaguars to the comeback that we saw tonight. Whenever any quarterback throws 4 interceptions, that quarterback deserves to lose. That's just my football philosophy. I don't think it's a bull take it all whatsoever. But at the end of the day, the clock is ticking for the Los Angeles Chargers. I said this about Justin Herbert. I said this about Jalen Hurts. I said this about Tua. All of these quarterbacks are on rookie scale contracts. Whenever you have a quarterback on a rookie scale contract and they prove to you early on that they're a dominant quarterback, then your Super Bowl window is wide open. You have an opportunity to truly be great. All you have to do is invest that capital properly around your star QB, hopefully get him the right head coach, and you could potentially win a Super Bowl. The Seattle Seahawks were able to execute this to perfection during Russell Wilson's rookie scale contract. And at the end of the day, I do think the Los Angeles Chargers have a phenomenal team. This is a very talented team from each and every position. I can't look at this roster and tell you what their weakness is. Maybe linebacker, if we're really really being nitpicky, but I don't see an overwhelming weakness on this team. And if you do, let me know in the comment section. That means at the end of the day, these games are being thrown away due to poor coaching decisions. And so far, from Brandon Staley, we've seen multiple instances of him making poor decisions in managing this team. It could potentially rob the Los Angeles Chargers of the Super Bowl. Jordan Schultz reported that Brandon Staley was reportedly coaching for his job tonight. I don't know how true that is, but whenever you have a head coach that has proven to you that with a good quarterback and a good team, he could take your team to a Super Bowl potentially, and when Sean Payton has made it clear that he would love to come to the Los Angeles Chargers and coach this team, it isn't necessarily a difficult decision to make after seeing the sample size that Brandon Staley has provided you. I might be a delusional Cowboy fan, but I'm sure as hell not a delusional Chargers fan, and I know a team that is talented enough to win a Super Bowl when I see one, and the Los Angeles Chargers are said team. Their problems mainly stem from the head coaching department. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this, man. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.